You know when you read a book and you're like, wow, this book is gonna change my life forever. I'm gonna implement everything that I've learned and I'm gonna live my best life. Then you don't actually do that, and then you start the next book and then the cycle starts all over again. But what good is a book if you don't actually implement what you're learning in the book? So in this video, we're gonna take the time to go through the 5 questions that Oliver Burkeman that this lovely author poses for us in his book 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mere Mortals. He poses these questions so that we can analyze our relationship with time, which as entrepreneurs, it just seems to drift away with the wind and it's non-existent. Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? My name is Maricruz. I'm an engineer, environmentalist, and entrepreneur, but in this channel, I'm your small business coach. I just finished reading this book called 4,000 Weeks, and I figured I would make some videos about it because there's some really key concepts in here that I think are gonna really help me in my entrepreneurial life, and I'm hoping they help you too. I actually already did part 1 of this little series on this book. I can leave that right here for you. We went over all the concepts that I took from the book. In this video, it's gonna be a little different. If you haven't heard of this video, it's basically the craziest time management book I've ever read. It's nothing to do with time management, honestly. It just makes you kind of like think about your relationship with time, think about how you position yourself in your life, and really question your life in general. It was pretty wild. So in this part 2, we're gonna go over this section right here. He calls it 5 questions. And basically he has a question and then kind of explains what he means by the question to help you think about your relationship to time. This is your chance to intentionally think about your current reality and really make the most out of your finite time. So I really hope you listen through the whole video, or at least take a look at the questions down in the description box and take a little bit of time out of your day to fill those out, or at least think about them. So I'm gonna give you the question on the screen and then I'll summarize briefly what he said in the paragraph just to make sure that you have all the tools that you need to answer the questions properly. Question number 4 is my favorite, but I think question number 5 is the hardest to think about and kind of implement in your life. The first question is, where in your life or your work are you currently pursuing comfort when what's called for is a little discomfort? What he's getting at here is that we tend to procrastinate or take on a bunch of projects or shy away from commitment because we're scared to go 1,000% into one thing that we care about and give it our all, because then we can fail, right? Then we can get embarrassed. But that's the only way to truly do something that you care about deeply. And so think about it a little bit. Are you choosing comfort everywhere in your life? Or is there somewhere where you can be a little more uncomfortable just so that it's really worth it? Question number 2 is, are you holding yourself or judging yourself by standards of productivity or performance that are impossible to meet? It is impossible to fill all the demands of this limitless list of demands that you have in your life and still feel fulfilled. He lists some things that you will never feel like you dedicated enough time to, and that's work, children, family, socializing, political activism. The list goes on and on. And honestly, I would add adulting on there because I feel like there's so many things that we have to do as adults now, like, I don't know, get health insurance and pay the rent and get groceries, feed ourselves, like cook. Takes so much time, and you know, you feel sometimes that you're not dedicating enough time to your health or to working out or to having a hobby, and there's just so many things, right? So he's just trying to get at, like, are you setting realistic standards for yourself? Question number 3 is, in what ways have you yet to accept the fact that you are who you are, not the person you think you ought to be? When you think about the present moment, he says, we usually think about it as a journey to a certain destination. And because we have a destination at all, that makes it so that just intrinsically, we don't take the present as what it is. And we're not fully accepting who we are at this moment. This is especially true in today's political and environmental climate crises. If we're not working to fix it, we feel guilty. And we work, volunteer, work. And we do this endlessly because doing something gives us this feeling that we have some sort of control over what's going on. Like, let that sink in. We continue to work and we continue to take action, do all these things, because that in itself kind of gives us control of what we're doing, right? And it gives us control of our future when really we have no control. And that's what we need to accept, right? Is that we are who we are right now, and working more towards something is not going to make us a better person or justify our existence on this planet. We work ourselves to death because we have a hard time accepting that this is it, that this is life, with all its craziness, with all its political imbalances, with all this environmental crisis that we have. This is it. This is it. I'm sorry to tell you. And maybe you won't save the world. Maybe you won't find the cure for cancer. Maybe your purpose on this life is just to take care of an elder, to take care of a family member, to create music, to dance, to make videos on YouTube and make people laugh. It really could be anything. It doesn't have to be that you have to be striving always to be this exceptional person that will solve world hunger or something. Question number 4. This one's my favorite. In which areas of life are you still holding back until you feel like you know what you're doing? This one's particularly important for entrepreneurs or for anyone that's wanting to start a business, because the more I get older, the more I work in corporate. I've also worked in academia. I've also worked in a nonprofit. And the more I work in these spaces, the more I realize everyone's winging it. And nobody knows what the hell they're doing. Like, can I say hell? Literally all the time. Nobody knows what they're doing. He mentions, growing up, I assumed that the newspaper on the breakfast table must be assembled by people who truly knew what they were doing. Then I got a job at a newspaper. Nobody knows what they're doing. And it's kind of scary to accept, right? Because you have to accept that you'll never know what you're doing with your kids, with your loved ones, at work. Everyone's kind of out here winging it. And even though that can be a little scary, I think it's also a little liberating because we're all in the same boat, right? We're all just trying our best out here. And last one, I think this one is the hardest. How would you spend your days differently if you didn't care so much about seeing your actions reach fruition? Another manifestation of us trying to control and master our time is that we place value on how we spend our time only by the results. So we end up doing things and taking action on only things that we will see a result from, or that we will see come to fruition, like the ending will come to fruition in our lifetime. But there are so many projects, so many tasks, so many things that we can do that maybe don't have a result or won't come into fruition in our lifetime, but are definitely worth doing. He gives the example, we're all in the position of medieval stonemasons, adding a few more bricks to the cathedral whose completion we know we'll never see. The cathedral is still worth building all the same. Now, I'm not saying cathedrals are super important, honestly, but you get the point. I think there's other stuff that we do. For example, beach cleanups or spending time with family or playing with our little nieces and nephews that don't have like a direct ending or like a result, but are still worth doing. The closing remarks for this chapter quotes a guy called Carl Jung, who in 1933 mentioned that the best way to live life is to simply do the next and most necessary step. That's it. Simple. Woo, we can all leave now. All jokes aside, it is that simple, right? We just have to do the next and most necessary step. And because that's the only thing you can do, that's the only thing you have to do. And that, I think, is like super liberating, right? You can't do more than you can do. Well, ain't that a relief? Okay, so those were the 5 questions that he provided for us to really intentionally think about our current reality and our relationship to time. I hope you take the time to at least think about them. You don't have to write it out, but I did leave those for you in the description, as I mentioned, and I will be doing a part 3 because he's got more for us, okay? He's got a whole section on actionable steps that you can take to implement his philosophies and his concepts of time into your day-to-day. Of course, we all love an action-oriented video. We're entrepreneurs, right? That's what we do. We need to know what to do. So I will be doing that in part 3. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss that one. And I really hope this was helpful for you. I am excited to hear about what you think in the comments. Maybe tell me what question stumped you the most or which one was more eye-opening. But until next week, don't forget, poquito goes a long way. Ciao!